Your dog never just says sorry. Most owners completely miss what's actually happening. They see the ears go back. They see the eyes go soft. They see that slow, careful approach after something went wrong. And they call it guilt. They say, he knows what he did. But what your dog is really doing in those moments isn't guilt at all. It is something far more deliberate, far more tender. And what science found when they studied it changes everything about how you see your dog in those quiet, loaded moments after a mistake. Max was 4 years old when it happened. He was a golden retriever, the kind of dog who filled every room he entered, not with noise, but with presence. Warm and attentive, and always slightly too interested in whatever was on the counter. James had adopted him at 14 months. And in the years since, they had built the kind of relationship that felt less like ownership and more like habit. Like something that had always been there. On a Thursday afternoon in late autumn, James came home to find his leather journal in pieces. This wasn't a small journal. It was the kind he'd been writing in for 3 years, notes from conversations, half-finished ideas, small sketches. The kind of object you can't explain the value of. By the time James got home, the spine was cracked open. Pages were scattered across the living room floor. The leather cover sat near the coffee table leg, a little chewed at one corner. The apartment was quiet in the particular way that only comes after something has gone wrong. James stood in the doorway for a long moment. Max was in the far corner of the room, not hiding exactly, but not his usual self either. His body was lower than it should have been, ears back. Eyes moving from James's face to the floor and back again in a slow, careful rhythm. His tail was moving, but not in the open. Happy arc of a dog. Glad to see you. It was low, close to his body, moving in small, uncertain circles, like a question he wasn't sure how to ask. Most people, in that moment, would say the dog looks guilty, and the word makes sense visually. It fits. But here is where the science takes an unexpected turn. Researchers at Barnard College spent years studying what owners call the guilty look in dogs. They designed careful experiments, secretly filming dogs in situations where they had or hadn't misbehaved, and then watched what happened when owners returned. What they found was remarkable. The guilty look appeared whether or not the dog had done anything wrong. Dogs who had behaved perfectly showed the same lowered ears, the same soft eyes, the same tucked posture simply because their owner walked in with an expression of disappointment. The behavior wasn't a confession. It was a response, an extraordinarily precise reading of the room. Max wasn't telling James what he had done. He was telling James what he already knew James was feeling. But that is only the beginning of the story, because what happened next, what Max did over the following 20 minutes is what most owners miss entirely. James cleaned up the pages without saying much. He was tired. He sat down on the couch and didn't call Max over. He just sat there, quiet, looking at the wall. The apartment felt heavier than usual. Max waited. He didn't beg. He didn't push his nose into James's hand the way he usually did. He sat about 4 feet away and watched. Patient, alert, present in a way that felt different, more deliberate, like someone who understood that this particular moment required a different kind of attention. After about 10 minutes, Max got up slowly and walked to the couch. Not jumping up, just standing beside it. Then he rested his chin on the cushion, right next to James's leg, and held it there, completely still, eyes up. He didn't move for a long time. Ethologists, scientists who study animal behavior, have a name for this sequence. It's called appeasement behavior, and it is one of the most sophisticated social tools in the canine emotional repertoire. It is not guilt. It is not performance. It is a carefully calibrated attempt to repair something. And dogs are extraordinarily good at it. The sequence almost always follows the same structure. First, distance reduction. The dog closes the physical gap, slowly, without pressure. Then stillness, no sudden movements, no demands. Then a gesture of vulnerability at the chin on the knee, to soft eyes, the exposed throat. And finally, waiting. Not for praise, for a signal that the tension has passed, that the distance between them has closed, that it is safe to breathe again. James didn't know any of this. He just knew that something about the weight of Max's chin on the cushion made it hard to stay angry. He put his hand on Max's head. Max's tail moved once, slowly. Then he exhaled a long, quiet breath and stayed exactly where he was. Veterinary behaviorists find that exhale deeply significant. It isn't simply relaxation. It's the physiological signal of a stress response ending. Studies measuring cortisol levels in dogs during and after conflict with their owners show a clear pattern. The dog's stress hormones spike during the confrontation, and then fall measurably when the owner makes physical contact. When they reach out, when the distance closes, Max wasn't performing relief. He was feeling it. James sat there for a while longer, hands still on Max's head. He thought about the journal. 3 years of notes, ideas, memories, most of it still legible. And sitting there, in the quiet, with Max's warm weight against his leg, he found it difficult to remember why he'd been so upset. This is the part that scientists find most interesting. Not the appeasement behavior itself, but what it produces in the owner. Research on the human-dog bond consistently shows that physical contact with a dog during moments of conflict actively reduces cortisol levels in the human as well. The same calming mechanism, happening simultaneously in 2 different species, 2 nervous systems, both moving toward the same quiet place. Neither one fully aware of what the other is doing, both responding anyway. Max wasn't just managing his own anxiety. He was, without knowing it, managing James's too. A few weeks later, James was talking with a friend who also had a dog. He was describing the journal incident, laughing about it by then. And his friend said something that stopped him cold. "Mine never does anything like that. When he messes up, he just hides under the bed for an hour." James thought about it, and then he thought about something he had read once, that a dog's social behavior is shaped not just by instinct, but by experience, by the specific relationship they have built with the specific human in front of them, by what that human has taught them through thousands of small moments about what happens after things go wrong. Max didn't learn appeasement from a book. He learned it from James. From every time James had been patient, or warm, or had reached out first. From every time James had lowered his voice instead of raising it. From every time he had sat down on the floor beside Max instead of walking away. Max had learned that the distance between them, after conflict, was something that could be crossed. Something that James would meet him halfway on, and so he crossed it. That is what most owners never understand about a dog's apology. It isn't just an instinct. It is a reflection. Your dog apologizes the way he does because of who you have been to him. The softness in those eyes, the careful approach, the chin resting quietly on your knee, that is not random animal behavior. That is your relationship made visible. That is 4 years, or 6 years, or 10 years of small moments, patience, warmth. The times you reached out, first returning to you in a single quiet gesture. If your dog has ever done this, walked towards you slowly after a mistake, rested his head near your hand, waited quietly until the weight in the room lifted, he wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was offering it, and he was trusting completely that you would understand, that the years between you had built something strong enough to hold the weight of a bad afternoon, that you were, in the way that mattered most to him, someone worth crossing the distance for. Max fell asleep that night, pressed against James's leg on the couch. The journal pages were stacked on the coffee table, slightly out of order, waiting to be reassembled. The apartment was quiet again, but a different kind of quiet. The kind that comes after something has passed, not just stopped. James didn't move him. If this video made you see your dog a little differently, share it with someone who has one. And if you want to understand what your dog is really trying to tell you every single day, in every small and silent moment, subscribe to Silent Paw, because they speak more than words. We just have to learn how to listen.